The most important priority to me as a coach, a business owner, speaker, and creator is trust. Whether you're watching a YouTube video, listening to a podcast, hearing me speak on stage, or I'm coaching you in a private session, I want to build ongoing trust with you. What that means to me is not that you just take my word for its own sake, but that you go out and try something, that if it speaks to you, and go test it for yourself. You see, the health and fitness industry is full of people ranging from teenage influencers to medical doctors, all promoting ideas, products, and programs. Some ideas can be beneficial, some can be misleading, and some are incomplete, or quite frankly, some are just outright harmful. My goal is to always have you try and prove whether or not you can get results after our discussion. As a coach and consultant, I know the value of detailed research to test and prove concepts. I also know the limitations of research relative to direct impact a practice may have on an individual. Some of what I teach is based on well over 25 years in coaching and not a meta analysis. Sometimes I'll cite research and give commentary. Either way, I invite you to think critically and, if appropriate, test what we talk about. I want to earn your trust, and that's the most important currency in my business. No fluff, no hype, just trust. Recently, a client said to me, "You probably hate it when your clients say, 'I read this, fill in the blank,' or 'I heard a podcast talk about this topic.'" On the contrary, I responded, "Those are my favorite conversations because they allow us to dive deeper into a topic that you're already interested in. My favorite clients are the clients who consume information and come to the conversation with questions loaded in the chamber. That is why you're successful. That's why they're not just content to sit back and follow directions." So, with that in mind, today I want to cover two topics with you. The first is the story of one of my clients and his journey over the past year from pain to performance. Now, for privacy's sake, I'll call him Bob. Just over a year ago, Bob came to me with nagging pain in his low back, hips, and knees that kept him from being able to run, limited his overall movement, and at times, when his back would go out, limited his daily activity. Now, I won't spoil the story for you right now, but recently we celebrated a major milestone, and I think his story is one that can be both instructional and inspirational for you. Before we get to Bob's story, I want to talk to you about some recent research published in The Lancet regarding your gut microbiome and exercise. As always, I'll have a few tips to get you started, but remember to always consult with a qualified health fitness professional before starting a program or an eating plan. In a recent paper published in The Lancet, Elisa Sentato and colleagues looked at the relationship of exercise and the gut microbiota. Before we dig into the research, let's set the stage for why this matters to you. It's estimated that upwards of 70% or more of your immunity comes from or lives in your gut. Our ability to stay healthy, fight disease, sickness, and potentially even chronic illness relies on on the health of our gut. More and more research also shows a strong link between the health of the gut and your brain health, including some promising indicators that a healthy gut can help to keep your brain healthy and potentially stave off or slow the onset of dementia and Alzheimer's. So, if you want a healthy, sharp, and agile brain, improve mental health, and you want to feel vibrant and energetic, you may want to pay attention to your gut health. In the study, Sentato and her colleagues looked at the link between what we would consider to be moderate exercise and the gut microbiome. The findings of the study, quote, suggest that the hormetic effects of physical exercise on cognitive function and neurogenesis are mediated by corresponding changes in the gut microbiota, highlighting a novel mechanistic link between exercise, brain function, gut microbiota, and gut microbiota composition. Now, there are a few important things to unpack from this study. Number one, exercise increased what's called the hippocampal neurogenesis. More on that in just a minute. Exercise seemed to increase the bacteria of the gut, specifically related to improved thinking. And third, exercise enhanced cognitive abilities related to object recognition and object location memory. So let's go back to the hippocampal neurogenesis. What does that mean and why does it matter? Hippocampal neurogenesis is the birth of new neurons in the hippocampus, which is your memory or navigation hub of your brain. This process supports the hippocampus's ability to adapt and remodel. This is often referred to as neuroplasticity. Now, why this matters is new neurons are thought to help with forming new memories, distinguishing similar experiences. So, think about pattern separation. This also leads to better mood regulation and cognitive flexibility. That's why researchers study it in the context of aging, depression, stress, and neurodegenerative disease. So, if moderate exercise can improve your mood, your ability to be mentally agile, and improve your gut health, how can you apply this research? Well, the study used a 40-minute exercise protocol, and while we don't have specific protocols showing the exact dose response level, what we do know is moderate cardiovascular training 3 times a week or more will improve your overall cardiovascular health. We also know that improvements in cardiovascular, more specifically your cardiorespiratory health, specifically what we call your VO2, or your body's ability to utilize oxygen, has numerous short and long-term health benefits. In fact, improvements in VO2 are linked to longevity when looking at many of the longevity markers. So, what's a good protocol to follow? First, if you're currently running or performing some form of cardiovascular exercise 3 times per week, try to perform that exercise at a moderate, so think zone 2 level. To progress, focus on efficiency first, not time. For instance, if you run 3 miles in that time, ask yourself, can I go from 3 to 3.25, or maybe even 3.5 miles while keeping my heart rate in the same zone, and do that for the next 4 to 6 weeks. If you're currently not doing any cardiovascular exercise, let's start small. Begin a simple walking plan for 20 minutes 3 times per week and increase it from there. Each week, increase either time or intensity. So, for instance, if you're walking 20 minutes 3 times per week, you can do 25 minutes the next week. Or could you add a hill or two into the mix and keep your time exactly the same? If you're currently not doing cardiovascular exercise, build 3 to 4 months up where you are doing 40 minutes of 3 times per week of walking as your baseline. It's important to remember that cardiovascular adaptations in your body take time, but once your body does adapt, those changes remain and are much harder to lose. So if you want a better gut microbiome, improved mental and brain health, start a moderate cardiovascular exercise plan today. Now, I will give one caveat to this, and the researchers also mentioned this in the research, that a dose-response relationship is critical, and there is a time or a point where too much cardiovascular exercise or too intense cardiovascular exercise can actually start to damage that gut microbiota. We don't know exactly when that point is right now, but I would say it's pretty safe to say that if you're staying in a moderate exercise range, again, think zones 1 and 2, you're going to be just fine. Now, just over a year ago, my client Bob came to me with several nagging injuries that kept him from not only living the life he wanted, but stopped him from doing many of the things he loved. After running through a detailed assessment, we set up a phasic plan to get him out of pain and back to performance. Phase 1 of Bob's plan had the same goal that all of my clients have that are in pain, and that's to get him out of pain. We found that much of his hip and back pain was coming from an unhealthy gut. We removed foods that he was allergic and intolerant to, began a protocol for healing his gut lining and gut microbiota, and within a relatively short period of time, we got him out of the majority of his pain. While in phase 1, we worked on what I call fitness hygiene. These are movements or mobility tools and drills that keep you moving well. After Bob was out of the initial pain, we moved on to phase 2, which is the mobility phase. The primary goal of this phase was to improve his flexibility and his mobility in the areas that were causing him the pain. Like many men who sit more than we'd like to admit, Bob had very tight hips and deconditioned glutes. As a sidecar to this, if you're watching this video or you're listening on Apple or Spotify, pause now and look in the mirror. Now, if you turn to the side and you look more like Gru from Despicable Me, think big belly and no glutes, you're the perfect person to experience the same pain that Bob was feeling. Bob, however, was not a guru. He was in pretty good shape. In fact, if you saw him at a pool, you'd probably be a bit jealous of the amount of muscle he was carrying. Bob, however, did experience the same pain that many of my clients who come to me in a guru shape are experiencing. Now, in phase 2, we spent more time in hygiene and strategically trained his glutes to open up and create more mobility. As phase 3 started, we shifted over to promote more power. Bob had more mobility and needed even more strength. So his lifts in the gym increased on a regular basis, and we started to introduce running back to his program. Starting at a mile at a time, we went very slow. Over the course of 3 or 4 months, he used what he called a modified conjugate method and undulating progression to get him running up to 4 miles. Finally, as Bob progressed, it was time for him to put the work to the test. As a former runner and aspiring trail runner, we signed him up for 2 5-mile races and one over 7-mile race to end the season. To say he and I were proud of his performance in the races would be an understatement. His new, open, strong, and powerful hips and back worked flawlessly, and he experienced his best race ever as the final race of the season. One thing that struck me when we did our after-action review was when Bob told me that one of the most important things that changed him through the process was that his mindset shifted. Yes, he eats well. He trains regularly. He dropped over about a dozen pounds of fat, got strong and lean, but he found that his mindset is now what continues to carry him forward with confidence. So why does this matter, and how can you use it? And listen to this story and start to apply it for your benefit. If you're in pain now, or at some point are in pain in the future, remember this protocol. Phase 1's goal is to remove the pain. You won't be able to gain significant strength when you are in pain. As you move into phase 2, the goal is to lessen how often you're in pain and decrease your recovery time when you do get into pain. Phase 3 is all about building your body to a point where you become bulletproof and the odds are in your favor of staying out of pain. And then finally, phase 4 is ongoing performance. They say variety is the spice of life. I say variety is the key to preventing injury. When you're in phase 4, you're looking to improve performance by utilizing a variety of exercises and techniques to create a new bulletproof you. I'm curious, though, what stands out to you the most? Are you in pain? Are you trying to get better performance? Or are you fascinated with improving your gut health through exercise? Leave me a comment and let me know what resonated. But for now, it's time for you to get out there and evolve. Hey guys, real quick, I'm always looking for great ways to make things easy for you. If you're anything like me, you want to save time, you're going to love my new partnership with 1% Fitness. 1% Fitness provides pre-packed, high-protein meals to support your nutrition needs. And most important, they taste great. I recently toured their facility with the owner, Rob, and he spent about 2 hours walking me through the process and seeing this amazing facility. The quality controls were unmatched. The flavor is amazing, and the convenience is second to none. If you want to try some of their meals at a discounted cost, go to 1%fit.com. That's the number 1%fit.com and use the code EvolvedMan at checkout.